What made you straight up nope out of a relationship? How about things that should have been red flags but I was too naive to recognize? Left notes on my car windshield when I was at work. A friend's house, the store seemed sweet, but I realized later that was my soap keeping tabs on me. Even when I didn't say where I was. Let me know how much a hitman cost and that it was cheaper than you'd expect. Would tell me something. And then later say that was a lie or a test. As though I should have figured that out instead of expecting the truth. Expected me to answer every call. And would get angry if I wanted to end the call first. Complained about my friends and family all the time. All of them. Apparently everyone I knew was manipulative and or rude. I didn't figure out this was an attempt to isolate me until after we broke up. He had already shown very jealous tendencies and had smacked me over the head because he thought I was looking at a guy, so it wasn't good already. We were outside of his friend's house and his friend asked how I was doing and he got mad at me for answering. I just got in my car and drove away. When he didn't want to have sex because he was grossed out by my period that I had finished 3 days prior. Asterisk. Note out of that one real quick. He slapped me. I bounced TF out. I received a message that clearly wasn't meant for me. We just had our first date which went really well. Calling me cheap and a slimeball and how I'm on my last chance to make things right on her coming birthday with lots of presents. I replied, hi, this is X. We just met and had one date. Was that message for someone else? She replied pretending to be her 12-year-old sister. Then apparently her dad messaged me with how he's told off his younger daughter. I'm out. He introduced me to his Beanie Baby collection. On the third date, I wasn't too bothered until I made the motion to leave and he asked me to hug, kiss, tuck in, and address each one by name before I left. There had to be at least 30. One day he casually told me he has a wife and 2 daughters but was unhappy and his wife never suspects anything. Stalked me for 2 months to change my mind. Crazy guy. We were 5 days into a relationship and work was going to have me move somewhere and I said we should do long distance for a while. She wasn't particularly fond of that idea and told me she would just drop her PhD program to move wherever with me. After 5 days, I told her I was going to leave her. And she said, so you're going to leave Mesa just like you left your brother? My twin brother committed suicide in 2017. And she knew how much guilt I had over not being there for him. Such a manipulative, disgusting thing for any person to say. Especially someone who claims to love you. I moved out 2 days later. I came home from temporary duty a day early to surprise her and found the neighbor in bed with her. We were married for 6 weeks at that point. He was working and then had enough money to move out, but he told me he would stay with his mother forever because she cooks and do the chores for him. What kind of 22-year-old spends their only day off playing video games? A 22-year-old chef who's working 3 jobs and has finally coordinated an actual day off between the 3 of them. He wanted me to grow out my pit and leg hair and texted, called, and emailed me repeatedly about it. It seemed like a pretty silly thing and he just had a little fetish, but after several days of this my sister said, why do you always attract the controlling freaks? And I finally had a moment of clarity. She threatened to stab me. Genuinely feared for my safety. I went over and we got in an argument, so I slept on the floor essentially. I went to the bathroom to text one of my buddies to come pick me up since I thought she had fallen asleep. I suddenly get a text from her saying, where are you? And my phone made a sound. I froze up and opened the bathroom door and she was already standing there waiting for me in the darkness. She didn't say a word at all. Just stared at me until I walked by. I went back to my spot on the floor and got under the blanket and pretended to be going asleep until she did. After about 30 minutes I decided to peek out from under the covers and she was literally towering over me in total darkness with her eyes wide open the entire time. She picked me because I had the same first name. General appearance. and lived in the same area of the state as her ex-fiancé of 2 years. That she had just been dumped by a month before we met. I felt even more offended about all of that than just being straight up rejected. Married for 6 years. Started out thinking she just struggled with depression and anxiety sometimes. But things kept escalating. I walked away when she started threatening to stab me in my sleep. We had already tried several couples therapists and individual therapists. But she refused to consider medication. I called her to meet up and try to find some closure. But she cut me off, telling me I wasn't allowed to leave her, and as punishment she was sleeping with 2 other guys. At that point I just ignored her number and filed for divorce. Hope she's doing well. But glad to not be afraid for my life. My brother came to visit me. After I spent whole day with my GF. It was time to see my brother because we did not see each other for a long time. We prepared some snacks and about to start Lotto because both of us love Lotto. She called me and started a long conversation on phone. I said my brother waits for me and she said that I cannot spend my time with anyone because it belongs to her. It was last talk between 2 of us. We had been together for quite a while, 6-8 months, and lived together for at least 2 months when I decided to make tuna salad. I asked how he liked it. He told me. I came back with 2 bowls. Half the can made his way. And half the can made the way I liked it. He completely freaked out. He said, if we can't agree on how to eat tuna, how will this ever work? Full stop. I said that we don't have to agree, we can both have it exactly the way we want and be happy. He vehemently disagreed. I started thinking of all of his other controlling behavior and inability to compromise. It wasn't that day that we broke up. But it was definitely the day our relationship broke. The cheating didn't help either. When my now ex-wife came into the living room where I was sleeping on the couch after a fight and started lunging at me. She asked me if she reminded me of my stepdad, who used to come in my room at night and stand over me before he dragged me out of bed by my ankles. He would then put the boots to me for whatever sins I had committed that day. She was the only person I had ever shared this with. She went out of town for work 2 days later, and when she came home I was gone and in another state. It was remarkable the amount of abuse I put up with to that point. It dawned on me then that if he had returned to my life I wouldn't let him hurt me, so there was no reason to let her abuse me either. Edited to add. Thank you for all the kind words and support. Especially the support given to others who shared their similar stories. Peace. Happiness and love to you all. When she accused me of ignoring her while I was at a funeral. He put a gun in my face and threatened to kill me. Noped right out even though we had been married for years and had kids. I wasn't going to be around for the day he actually pulled the trigger. It was already on the rocks from roughly around the time the millionth drunken argument happened. However, the moment that sealed it was when she said something to me along the lines of, if your dad wanted to be alive he would still be here. My dad died in a car accident 3 years before that. Immediately went from loving her enough to make it work to thinking she was the most vile person on earth. She kept waking me up over and over all night trying to have an argument with me. The argument was about me going to sleep. My brother took a girl to a high-end sushi place and his date ordered 3x the food as he did. He just got a grilled salmon. She ate almost none of it, and at the end she said she ordered all the extras so she could take some home for tomorrow. When the waiter showed up for the bill she excused herself to go to the bathroom. The waiter asked my brother if he wanted to split the check, and at that point my brother did the right thing and stuck her with $100 worth of sushi and booze. The girl returned to see a huge check at her seat. This entire thread makes me feel like such a mentally stable adult. She taped photos of her ultrasounds of a child she lost custody of with masking tape around my apartment on her first visit to my apartment. We went to the mall and stopped by this little kiosk selling cookies. I decided that I would get 1 cookie. The lady working there said if I buy 2 I get 1 free. I decided to buy 2 and get the third one free. My date went off on this lady saying she's trying to scam me etc. He was legit yelling so loud that it was echoing through the mall. It was so embarrassing. If you're rude to people in customer service, you're not for me. Told everybody she knew about any little disagreement. Anytime I could be perceived unreasonable, it was everyone's business. But somehow the surprises, special dates, lending her cousin rent money, all of that wasn't brought up. Just negative stuff was public knowledge. When she came home drunk one night, asking me if my brother had told me. Told me what? Huh? That I cheated on you with him? Edit. My brother cheated on his GF with my GF. Just to make everything even more ducked up. Edit 2. No. This all happened a month before she came home. Drunk. And told me. Which was autumn 2019. Edit 3. No. I didn't sleep with his ex-GF. And no. I didn't punch him or anyone. The only thing I did punch was my ex's concrete wall. I was going through some stuff in my early 20s and was pretty desperate for any kind of affection. Which is the only reason I took a couple weeks to back out of this. The second time I ever met her, she told me to delete every girl's number from my phone, sister included. She then came over to my place, saw I had a full bookshelf and ridiculed me for being a reader. And in the same breath announced that she loved cocaine so much and wanted me to try it. Finally, I escaped. But by then she was already sleeping with two of my friends, who are obviously no longer my friends. The good news is, I've now been happily married for 5 years and consider myself so incredibly lucky. He cancelled my order meal while I went to the bathroom because he thought I ordered too much. It was just small extra dumpling. She wanted our relationship to be exclusive but secret. He told me I was stupid for believing in dinosaurs. Followed me to a night out. Got on his knees stopping traffic in the middle of a city center street to declare his love. We had been on 2 dates. He also told me that same night he could see into the future and already knew he was going to die defending my honor while I was carrying our twins. Yeah. I realized she didn't brush her teeth. They were actually green. I'm out. She told me that if she hooked up with a girl it wouldn't be cheating because she always had wanted to do it. I already learned this lesson in the past. If someone tells you they are going to do something, you should believe them. I was dating a woman who was previously married and her ex had a 2-year-old child together. One night, she tells me of this plan to coach her daughter to claim this guy had molested her because she wanted full custody and didn't want this guy around anymore. I decided right then to bounce right the duck out of that relationship. Edit to bring closure. Yes. I did call and tell the father of her plan. As far as I know, she never actually went through with it, but she did attempt to have drugs planted on him. Not sure how that eventually turned out. I had been dating her for a year, but after that conversation, I ghosted her. Just straight up cut all contact. She came to stay for the first time. It was the night before New Year's Eve and we were planning to go out drinking for New Year's Eve. I had just worked a 12-hour shift. Carpet fitter, so manual labor, so I was exhausted. She had a few drinks and started to get aggressive because I wanted to just relax that night, but she wanted to go out drinking. We broke up 3 days later. My father was an aggressive drunk when I was a kid, so I could see how it would go. If you know you're an aggressive drunk, get off the drink, man. He didn't have a car, so I'd help him with rides to work. He worked third shift at Toys R Us stocking shelves. I picked him up one night and he was so drunk he could barely stand. I made some comment about how he isn't going to be able to work. He started throwing shit at me in the parking lot. I threw his shit on the ground and left him there. I've dealt with one too many alcoholics and I wasn't wasting any more of my time. Cut to 5 years later, he is now sober and getting married this year. So good for him. You don't understand how jealous I can get, she said. Tearfully upset that her friend and I went to the same university, 3rd largest in the country. No less. Fights as foreplay. She told me she was on birth control. Turns out she thought drinking a lot of Mountain Dew would make it so she couldn't get pregnant. Showed up late at my place one night because she couldn't sleep at her place alone. I was fine with that until she started talking about the reason why. When she was alone, the demons in the corners and edges of the room would fill the dark spots and watch with their glowing eyes. Urged her continuously to get help. To go to the doctor, but she wouldn't do it. What she was seeing was real. I felt terrible leaving her for that, but I wasn't equipped to deal with someone who needed professional help and refused it. When I wasn't allowed to hang out with my male friends in broad daylight, but he thought it was okay to hang out with girls he didn't know in the middle of the nights, was a major red flag. Came home and he was naked in our bed with a teenager. He was 33. I'm a black person. My bestest buddy in the whole wide world is a white person. We were roomies at one point. He brought a date over. I met her. Nothing weird. But as it turned out, she had problem with my bromeo living with a black person, me. He immediately broke it off with her. I don't have many friends, but I'd like to think I got quality over quantity. Edit. It is sincerely heartwarming to see so many enjoy an anecdote of Brahmins triumphing over bigotry. This post just may be the leverage I need to convince my BFF to join Reddit. Thank you everyone. 2 weeks after my mother died, he asked, "Is that still bothering you?" I dated this girl who was jealous. And I mean super jealous. I couldn't hang out with my friends without her constantly calling me. Obviously I couldn't do the same. Because how could I be jealous? That would have meant I didn't trust her. That's annoying enough to end a relationship. But it was just the tip of the iceberg. After 9 months, I found out from one of my friends, who also happened to be a close friend of hers, that she had been hiding her sexuality to me. She was actually bi. At first I really didn't get why she did that. Because I absolutely have no problem with these things. Mutual friend then told me that she was going around ducking other chicks. So basically she was hiding her bisexuality so that she could have sex with any girl she wanted to. Without me even suspecting anything. Sometimes she even had threesomes with the girls' boyfriends. When I told her I knew everything, she started telling me that she didn't want me to know because those other people didn't really matter for her and she didn't love them. Needless to say, she got drunk one night and told her brother that I was abusive. I wasn't. He was a veteran who had PTSD and a short fuse. She thought it was absolutely hilarious. Well, she got married to another dude out of nowhere. Kinda late. But he had left his phone at my house and got a text while in my possession thanking him for the awesome sex. When I confronted him about it, he tried to hit me. I couldn't call 911 fast enough. He took off before the cops arrived. A few days later, he arrives at my house unannounced and I walked out with a baseball bat. Never saw him again. He was violent when angry. Like crazy angry. What did me in was when he sped up on a dark county road and turned off the headlights. We survived, and as soon as we got into town I got out of the car and relationship. We weren't in a relationship, but I had a developing thing with a guy once. Until one day when I wasn't around, he and some other friends of ours went to a bar and he sneakily slipped stronger alcohol into some other girl's drink there. This girl apparently was talking a lot with one of our other friends and not showing much attention to him. So he got jealous and threw this friend on the floor and started to strangle him. He was obviously thrown out of the bar after that and later tried to play it off as just a joke and just messing around. How do you jokingly try to strangle someone anyway? Anyway, I dropped this guy out of my life right after I found out. I definitely wouldn't want to be stuck with someone like that. He was jobless and trying to move in with me ASAP while also talking about wanting a joint bank account. After our second date, we were hanging out with mutual friends. I was teasing another guy about something very trivial. Guy I had been seeing walks up to me, grabs my wrists and starts screaming in my face to apologize for disrespecting his friend. I left. He called me later, crying and apologizing. Nope. Just nope. She wanted to get married after the first date. Ted Mosby would have approved. After our first date she sent me a Google Maps pin of my address with just haha as the only context. I hadn't told her my address, then followed it up with asking how my boss was doing by using his first name. I hadn't mentioned the name of anyone from my work. That level of stalker made me pull the eject handle real quick. Edit. Since this gained some traction, to answer the most common question statements. Yes, I know that women are more at risk than men, so doing a search of someone is common and that info is easy to find. I was not upset that she did that. What put me off was the weird way Ted told me she did that. Without warning, context or anything. He just started address and name dropping like a villain in a bad movie, trying to underhandedly tell the protagonist that she's onto his secret identity or some shitty. She threw her phone at the wall and stormed out the first time I said no to sex. Just wasn't in the mood. I mean, at least it was her own phone. But Jesus. I was dating a really cool guy and everything was going great, and then about a month in he started talking baby talk to me and it did not stop. With him knowing the whole time. I did not find out he was HIV plus until I was diagnosed. He wanted me to spend time only with him or my family. He checked my phone and wanted me to have only 5 chats. My mum, my dad, my sibling and him. I could not talk, say hi or hug my male friends, and eventually I was not allowed to have them. I wasn't allowed to meet my girlfriends neither. At some point he took my phone and unfollowed every male in my Instagram. He used to come to my place and stay there with me to avoid going out. I dreamt about traveling to Japan, but he said no because at that time I really liked one Japanese actor and he was afraid I could meet him and fall for him. Toxic F. I had balls to break up only after 2 years of relationship. He stalked me a couple of weeks after. Now I value myself a lot more and would never ever let someone do something like this. Edit. Wow, an award. That's such a wholesome experience for me. Thank you all for your support and understanding. Please take care of yourself and remember you deserve better.